John Maughan is with us to talk to us about these games this weekend. John, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good, guys. Good. Yeah, from a beautiful sunny morning here in Castlebar. Nice to talk to you both.
What is the level of expectation when you're out in the streets and people are coming up to you talking about the game this weekend? What's everybody feeling about this?
A small little bit of trepidation, I'll be honest with you, because there's an interesting statistic that's floating around on social media and in various chats about Roscommon managing to beat Mayo in the first round of the championship after we've won the league on the last 4 occasions. So, Roscommon they've had a fantastic league, an incredible performance in the last game, albeit against a malfunctioning Donegal. I think they put up 21 points to 9 on that particular game. So they're coming in with huge confidence, and no better team than Roscommon to bring Mayo back down to earth. But at the same side, that victory over Galway last Sunday in Croke Park will have raised our expectations, and we're coming with a bit of momentum as well. But it's just kind of one of those games where you're just keeping your fingers crossed and let's hope that we get out of jail. If we were to benchmark it against the league performance, Mayo, I think that game was played in early March. We look very, very athletic and very strong, particularly in the opening half of that National League campaign. And we looked like we were complete control. But I tell you, the way Roscommon finished in that particular game, they finished, I think the lead, Mayo's lead, had stretched out to 7 or 8 points at one stage. And within 4 or 5 or 6 minutes, it was back down to a kick of a ball. And if you might recall, I think they had an opportunity at the very last minute of that game, the last attack, where Jim O'Connor spread himself to prevent maybe a last-minute winning goal for Roscommon. So I tell you, it's one of those games where you're just, I say Kevin McStay's management team will be glad it's over and get a 2-week break before they go on to Pearse Stadium if they're lucky enough to do that.
As an intercounty manager, John, of many years, you can understand and appreciate the importance of a turnaround and maybe having more rest time before a big game like this than your opposition. It's probably understandable that Kevin McStay was looking for the league final last week to be pushed forward to Saturday from Sunday. Is that going to have an impact in this game? Roscommon kind of sitting there waiting, ready to go, whereas Mayo had to go out last weekend.
It hasn't the same impact as it would have had a number of years ago, because the conditioning of players is so professional now, and Kevin has an enormous backroom team that has that managed down to its nth degree. So I would imagine certainly there was no celebrations last Sunday evening. Ordinarily there might be a bit of a party or a Monday club after you win a league title. Certainly on the couple of occasions that we've won one down here in Mayo, that appears to be the case. But no, I'd say Kevin was very anxious to get them into recovery mode immediately after the game last Sunday. And as I say, with the conditioning of the players, I know Mayo's conditioning and strength work that they've done. They started off very, very early in the campaign, and that's another little argument there. We're going through the front door. I've no doubt Kevin Say will want to win a provincial championship, because I'm not convinced this Mayo team right now are quite ready to win an All-Ireland title, particularly when you benchmark them against the Dublin performance and the Dublin resources they have. I'm not quite sure that we're quite good enough yet. So I think Kevin will be anxious to win a provincial title, and I think he'll throw the kitchen sink in the next couple of weeks to try and get over the line. And obviously, we're Mayo lucky enough to beat Roscommon, and I'm suggesting to you it's not an absolute certainty, but if we are the big one, and it will be an even bigger game as Galway and Pearse Stadium, and that could be a really, really tricky encounter if Mayo get there.
What are the doubts? What are causing you to have doubts about Mayo's ability to get over the line in the All-Ireland? Is it anything to do with how Galway played them last week and maybe showed a bit of a template for teams to play against this Mayo side?
Yeah, I think there's a certain element of that. I think Pádraig Joyce will have gone off to Portugal on Monday morning, lamenting the fact that they didn't put Mayo away. They had created those 4 goal chances. Our goalkeeper was man the match. He alluded to that in his post-match interview, apparently. That they certainly opened us up. They came down to the heart of a defence, and there was a little bit of a question mark about our new defensive setup. Are we strong enough and good enough, particularly when teams come at us with pace? Jim O'Connor, of course, is playing more or less as an out-and-out sweeper these days behind Conor Loftus. Of course, Conor is our new centre-half back. He had a brilliant league campaign and probably embellished his reputation a little bit even last Sunday. But nonetheless, I just felt Galway penetrated us quite easily. And when you consider that Shane Walsh is not quite at the tempo that he needs to be, He missed quite a few opportunities, 45s and one thing and another. Of course, Peter Cook had that last-minute goal chance. They were a bit sloppy. So I think Pádraig Joyce and Galway will appreciate and understand that they have a greater opportunity with a three-week lead into Pearse Stadium to tidy up elements of the game that make a big difference to them. Damien Comer, not starting, not quite fit enough. Johnny Heaney going off injured early in that first half. Get those guys back up to tempo over the next couple of weeks, and I just think that Galway can improve by 6 or 7 points for a Pearse Stadium game against Mayo or Roscommon.
And in terms of the specific approach that Galway took, they basically conceded the kickouts to Mayo and said, "Okay, Mayo, you're going to have to play through us if you're going to beat us," and that really seemed to have stuck Mayo in a bit of treacle.
Yeah, certainly, and it's an interesting aspect of the modern game. The high press and what you do there. Yeah, that's certainly something that Pádraig and Cian O'Neill would have, and his backroom team would have come out with that very clear strategy, and it certainly has worked because everybody tries to beat the press. If we can go along, we have a goalkeeper that can certainly, kick over the press on occasion. So. Again, I think Kevin and his team will be spending a bit of time on working on an alternative to that, so that when a team decides to give you the ball, can we still go long? Can we still take they tried it on a couple of occasions here throughout the league, and particularly the home games, where they have gone long with great success. And look, it very much depends on your midfield and how dominant they are, and that's an element of a game. Matthew Rowan, in some games he's been brilliant against Donegal. He was superb. Matthew appeared to have returned to the great form that he displayed. There's maybe a talk there that maybe Jack Carney might give us a better option of maybe winning clean possession if we decide to go long or kick outs. Yeah, there's certainly food for thought on those lines. But Galway certainly, with the approach they took, to cause us problems for sure. And particularly when they open us up down the heart of a defence. He just created a bit of consternation. Could have had 2 or 3 goals, and that's certainly a concern. And this defensive structure, albeit new for Mayo, it certainly needs a little bit of tweaking if we are to go on and land the big one.
John, I know Donegal are having their troubles, and they were already relegated at the time, but Roscommon kicked 21 points against them in the last round of the league. 20 of those were from play. I think there was only 1 free in the game. And when you look at that Roscommon full forward line, it is dangerous. You've got Diarmuid Murtagh, Conor Cox, Ben O'Carroll, all free scoring throughout the league. How do you expect that Mayo full back line to cope with them? Because Coyne and Callan in particular were excellent against Galway, I thought, and have been in recent weeks. But how do you expect those battles to match up?
It's going to be a worry. I in particular, this Ben O'Carroll has certainly caught everyone's attention this year with his performance. He's been superb. We know about the 2 Murtaghs, Kieran and Diarmuid. Obviously, Conor Cox, a very formidable opponent, strong. We have a very inexperienced full back line. And, look at Jack Coyne is a fabulous footballer. I watched him playing and winning an intermediate title with Ballyhonus on a couple of occasions last year. He's a gem of a footballer. McBreen has been on the periphery of the Mayo team for the last couple of years, albeit injury just kept him back from being a permanent starter over the last couple of seasons. And Sam Callanan has just been superb as well. Notwithstanding, the 3 of them are quite inexperienced, and I would be a little bit concerned. And then again, it's all about the quality of ball that Roscommon can get into that full forward line. But certainly, it's our defensive setup is a little bit concerning. Nonetheless, those 3 guys on the Mayo full back line are all talented. They're quick. They're athletic. And I thought Sam Callanan in particular did a fantastic job on Shane Ward. So he's come in with great confidence. Jack Coyne, very, very talented footballer. And McBreen down here has been the talk of Mayo football supporters because everyone feels we've now found a full back that's athletic and strong and can get up and down the field. But I just watching these Mayo team and the transition from the new management from James Horns into Kevin McStay's, we're very, very athletic. That's the one thing with terrific pace. And even down to our cornerbacks and our full back, every opportunity they get, they are gone. And we have this kind of rotating system that Diarmuid O'Connor will sit back and Conor Loftus will hold and Stephen Cohn will hold the defensive setup. And they're just given, a green light to our full back line to attack at will. So I expect that the same way Sean Kelly did it for for Galway last week. Every opportunity he was going to get in that National League final, he was going to take the likes of Aidan O'Shea on a gallop 150 metres, which Aidan doesn't like, obviously, up and down the field. I expect that the Mayo full back line will try and do the same with that Roscommon full forward line. Put them on the back foot, put them chasing, make it uncomfortable for them, and just see how athletic and how fit they really, really are. I think that will be an approach that Mayo will take. But you mentioned it there, 21 points, 20 from play against Donegal, albeit a Donegal team that was in complete disarray at that time. But we all expected Donegal might have come out in that last National League game and put down a marker and a statement after losing a manager and of course all that consternation that it creates. But you have to point a light on Roscommon, and not alone that performance, but throughout the league.
Oh yeah, very impressive. And it's all actually set up for the perfect ambush, and I can see why there'd be a little bit of trepidation on the streets in Mayo this week. I do want to ask you about Clare though, because this is a big opportunity for Clare against Cork at the weekend. We've been waiting for this Clare team to have a statement victory under Colm Collins. They've been a staple in Division 2 for such a long period of time, and they've had a little bit of heartbreak there, and they've had a little bit of heartbreak in the Championship. And this year, if they were to get into the Sam Maguire, they'd obviously have to do it through the Provincial Championship. There would be a game at home that no one would really want to go down to Ennis to play them, but it basically all rests on this game against Cork this weekend. And we don't really know what to make of Cork either. So this is definitely one of those where it could be a famous victory for Clare, or it could be the birth of a new Cork movement.
Yeah, I mean, Cork have created a small bit of confusion, particularly that performance against Louth, not taking anything away from Louth's league campaign. And they've been certainly a team that's on the rise and have, they've been fantastic under Mickey Hart. But Cork are just haven't got that consistency. Their performances are so fragmented. One week they look absolutely brilliant. You have them in your accumulator, and yes, they go and put out a brilliant victory and they look magical. And the next weekend you're expecting them to drive on. People were talking a number of weeks ago about Cork being the dark horses in this year's championship. I'm not convinced at all. They have some fantastic footballers, but collectively that cohesion is just not there. They have a great full forward line, and if they hit form, you say, yeah, they can blow some of the top 3 or 4 teams of the country away if they all click on the one day. But they just don't do that. I mean, Clare, for the first time in I think 8 years, have been relegated. Is this Colm Collins' last throw of the dice? They haven't beaten Cork, I think, in about 20 years. They've already played them twice in this year's McGrath Cup and the National League, and I'd say really underperformed. That big rallying force that you'd expect from Clare at home, you just begin to question it. But I feel if there's any day to do it, it's this weekend. There's something about them. There's a bit of I suppose, story circulating that Colm Collins might move on after, incredible 8 or 9 years in charge. They've been absolutely fantastic. I know they've been missing a couple of their big name players when they play Cork in the National League. I think their 2 first choice midfielders were missing on that occasion. So if Clare can get back and get a good crowd going, they can be formidable. Would I back them to win it? I probably wouldn't, just because the history is there and the talent in that particularly in that Cork attack is just so strong. And for me, I just can't see it happening. I'd love to see it happening. I obviously have been involved with Clare for 4 years back in the early 90s, and we had some wonderful days down in Cusack Park in National League and a couple of championship games. And I'd be keeping my fingers crossed. But with Brian Hurley and Sherlock and Sean Porter, who's a beautiful footballer, Chris Jones, big midfielder, E. Maguire, they just have a lot of talent right around the park, and I just think it might be a big struggle for Clare.
Okay, one last one for me. It's going to be Easter Sunday, and it's the first round of the Connacht Football Championship. Is there any possibility that some team gets their strength and conditioning perfect and the others kind of screw it up over the course of the next 8-12 weeks, and then we have a slightly unusual All-Ireland winner because of the change of system? Or does this actually benefit the Dubs and Kerry more than anybody else because of the strength and depth that they have?
I have to say, Dublin for me, when you consider Brian Howard, Paul Mannion, just a cameo appearance the last day, no Jack McCaffrey, no Merchant. I mean, they're playing within their comfort zone. Dublin, they to me, any team that beats Dublin will win the All Ireland. I feel. Of course, Kerry have been very slow out of the blocks. They've been indifferent. They got exactly what they wanted out of the league. That's what Jack O'Connor said: get 6 points and survive, and that's exactly what they did. Can't see any big shocks. Like, I mean, Louth have been superb throughout the National League. Yeah, Jerry, you just begin to, there's a question mark over them. You know, could have been beaten by an awful lot more last weekend in Dublin. They appear not to be a real Croke Park team. Rory Gallagher hasn't got the strength and depth of the quality that he had when he was involved with Jim McGuinness and Donegal. Forgot to mention Longford and Offaly there. Longford relegated, Offaly, both of them Patchen Cup performance, it would appear. That'll be an interesting game, could end in a draw. The ones that you'd be a little bit worried about, I was talking to Andy Moore, and I meet him in the gym here in Castlebar. I was just chatting to him after their performance, the last league game against Sligo, which they lost, and they're travelling. They're on the road this week to New York. They're always very, very tricky encounters. I remember being involved in New York on a couple of cases with Mayo and Roscommon. And by God, you'd lose a couple of kilos on the sideline in those games. Likewise with London and Sligo. Albeit, I just don't think London are as strong as they were a couple of years ago, similarly with New York. But I know both Tony McEntee and Andy Moore will be very, very relieved if they come away next Monday or Tuesday out of those two capital cities with victories. But I'd say they will sweat for them. There certainly will be occasions during those two games overseas where Tony McEntee with Sligo will be sweating a little bit, similarly with Andy in New York. But I expect both of them to prevail by the narrow margins.
John,
but look, it's wonderful. Look, we're looking forward to a great championship.
Great stuff. Great to have you with us. Thanks a million. Cheers.
God bless, boys. Take care now. Thank you.
John Maughan there. Speaking of